Hi, and welcome back to Your Take is Excrement.
Or as we're gonna start calling it, Your Take is having fucking recording problems.
Yeah, we've been having. Let me tell you what. I think God does not want our podcast to succeed.
Apparently not this week.
No,
but
it's been just a bitch. It's been it's been a bitch. We've this is like our fourth attempt at this.
It's
some shit.
Listen, and we're very sorry that this is very late, but it's we've been trying.
We've been trying. It's been fucking crazy out here. But what?
I was gonna say it's your host. I'm Neo.
Hey,
this is May.
Hi.
You can find us on Twitter at Angstrom and at Nick Spheres.
That's true.
We'd also like to shout out our sponsors, Machine Age Productions and the RPG hashtag iHunt, and the Etsy store Ambient Dream Studio. More on both of them later. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/excrement. We'd also like to shout out May's book.
Oh yeah,
Fluids.
I wrote a book called Fluids. It's disgusting and gross. You can still pre-order it for like a week. And then I'm probably gonna ship them out, and there's a high quantity of that shit, so I'm gonna be doing that for a hot minute. Wow, we got through all that information way faster.
The second,
millionth time we've recorded this. So,
and today we're going to be reviewing Doug Walker's The Wall.
Oh my god! Yeah, yes, 100%. No.
The Doug Walker cut. It's like the Snyder cut.
It's like the Snyder cut. Yeah, exactly.
The Walker cut of
the
Wall.
Walker cut. Let me tell you what. I didn't like this movie. Okay. So we're actually talking about Pink Floyd's The Wall, which is a
far better piece of media.
Far better piece of media. It's a diverse piece of media. It's a weird piece of media. It's recently found kind of this like resurgence, and I think that resurgence is almost entirely because of Doug Walker. Which kind of sucks because he made such a bad video about it that everybody was like, well, what the fuck is this movie? And then they like watch the movie and they're like, oh damn, this movie fucking slaps. We don't need no education. It's just like, oh yeah, this totally fucking makes sense to me. Yeah, it still fucking makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, even still now, like, even right now, it's like, continues to be a piece of work that is very bold-faced about what it believes.
Well, and it's like, they're not trying to hide anything. Like, it's Roger Waters, right?
Yes.
Roger Waters is just pissed off and angry, and he's going to tell you about it. And he's not going to, like,
Roger Waters goes off on you.
Goes off on you. But in there's, like, some things that if you're, like, you know, if you're making something for other people to consume, generally you hide some things, you know? There's things that, you know, that aren't socially acceptable to like, be betrayed, you know, and it's
right.
And it's like feelings that you might have that you're not going to own, you know, because, well, and specifically in this movie, he's kind of misogynistic. Like, he has a lot of things, you know, hang-ups with women, and he doesn't hide it.
No,
like,
not at all.
And so, you know, but he does it in a way where he's less just misogynistic, and he's like, this is why I have a complicated relationship with women.
Right, exactly.
But then he's also like, yes, I do though have a horrific relationship with women.
Well, and I think largely it's like it's the consequences of his upbringing is largely what he's saying. And so, like, The Wall in a very simplistic metaphorical term is about, like, how people in your life frequently will build your wall for you and then leave you inside of it.
Right.
And you can't get the fuck out of it. And because you can't get out of it, and this of course means a wall that's it looks like it's protecting you. They treat it like it's protecting you. You need this wall to protect you from danger. But actually it's keeping you a prisoner inside of it. And that's like the leaving it is terrifying but good, actually.
Right. Well, and with this movie, there's you can approach it through the movie, but you can also like you can have a very different interpretation of it from the album, because the movie and the album are different musically. Like
right, exactly.
If you listen to the movie track list, there's more
music.
There's more music. They've taken away some of the tracks that are on the album.
Right.
So it's a very like it, you can just interpret it differently, and just
multiple creative iterations.
Right. Yeah. And right out the gate, I this last week have basically exclusively been listening to The Wall on repeat, and also the Expanse book series.
Well, you've listened to the other Pink Floyd stuff quite a bit. Well,
but I keep on like it's I would like listen to The Wall, and because I'd be at work doing some shit by myself, and so I'd listen to The Wall 3 times, listen to Dark Side of the Moon once, and The Wall 3 times, and then the Have a Cigar album. I can't remember what that album's called. Here? Yeah, Wish You Were Here once, and then The Wall like 4 times.
Yeah,
and then listening to a couple chapters of The Expanse.
Well, and so I think the way we start this off is like there are several things, I feel like big things to talk about with this. But the first one I think is just contextually Pink Floyd, where we're at with that. So like Pink Floyd, seminal rock band, everybody's dad's favorite band,
psychedelic band.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's also the like Dark Side of the Moon is like the classic like acid album. You take acid and you're like,
you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, changes your life. Yeah. And well, and it works. I mean, it does that if you want that to be what it does. I mean, one time I was on acid and we were listening to Dark Side of the Moon, but we were not listening to it in a linear fashion. We just turned on a song.
You turned on a song. I said, if we're gonna listen to it, let's put on the album. And you said, no, I just want to listen to this song. And then because it's Dark Side of the Moon, the song ends on a cliffhanger because it's immediately supposed to jump into the next song. And then you two auto-played some dumb bullshit. Yeah. And got really upset.
And I began screaming like mad. I was like, no! Are you fucking kidding me? Because it was like right in the midst of this crescendo of emotion. And you're just like, God! So
well, if it wasn't the consequences of your actions.
I know. Listen, I know. So, but anyway, so Pink Floyd has like this weird, I'm gonna call them like sonic importance, right? Like they exist in a weird like space and environment to me. I feel like them as a band is like, it's hard to call that music, but it's also hard not to call it music because it's like a whole thing. Well, it's like a whole fucking thing.
And it's music designed to be consumed as a whole album, which a lot of music, like, it's just hard to engage with it on the album form, at least for me. Like, it's like there's a lot of bands I like, but I've only heard like 3 songs in every album because it's like, that's just kind of how they've designed their music to be engaged with.
Exactly.
And
Pink Floyd designs their music to be engaged with like a linear experience.
Yeah,
it's like music as art is a good a great way of looking at it. And also, I mean, like, they're fucking with some pretty complicated stuff on these records. That's not it's not simple bullshit.
No.
Even if it looks like it,
especially
might be.
not The Wall.
No, God, especially not The Wall.
And so the reason I started listening to it on repeat, like an absolute maniac. It was because I was in a work truck and we had a radio but no aux cord. What is this? 2005?
Yeah, what the fuck?
What the fuck is this? And so we were listening to the rock station, and they were like, hey, this is 98.5, the border. And they had like a fucking like War Pigs by Black Sabbath playing,
Oh wait, War Pigs. Oh god. Banned.
Yeah, and then they're like up next is Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. And then, yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, and it's just like, why that? Why did you pull that?
Yeah.
Pick any other fucking track, dude.
Yeah. And I was like, it was like a splinter in my thigh. It was the
musical equivalent of killing my boner.
Yeah.
God.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So then I dedicated my week to just listening to the complete album.
Right.
And then we were like, we should just do The Wall for the podcast.
Right.
So, I feel like we should explain what the wall like what the wall's
What
about.
the wall is. Well, to explain what the wall is, I think we have to talk. I mean, we talked somewhat about Dark Side of the Moon. I think, yeah, Dark Side of the Moon. Reputation precedes it. It's like,
It's the Dark Side of the Moon.
It's yeah. Wish You Were Here. Also fucking fantastic. Wish You Were Here, in my opinion, best Pink Floyd for me. I like it more than The Wall. Hot take.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, like everything on that fucking rips. And also they were clearly exploring ideas about their own fame, like what happened to them after Dark Side of the Moon, like where they were like, oh fuck, this is my life now.
Right.
So that's interesting.
It's like the people we've gotten into bed with really fucking suck. Like, fuck the music industry.
And so it's the stair step thing where it's, it's like Dark Side of the Moon is an album about life itself and how to cope with life itself, like, and all of its different variables. I mean, money corrupts things and fucking sucks. Time, you're gonna die, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, breathe. Home, it's important to find a place that feels like home. Like, things like this are so simple, so basic, bare bones. And I think a lot of people look at Pink Floyd and they see this like weird psychedelic mess as stuff that doesn't make any sense. It's so abstract, but that's not true. That is a blatantly not true.
No.
Everything in there has a purpose, and everything has a very tangible, real world, literal purpose.
Right. Well, and the music is psychedelic musically, but every Pink Floyd lyric is like the most literal. Like, it's like, I am trying to clearly communicate this with you,
this concept, and I'm communicating it in a direct, clear way that anyone can understand. And like, the reason that Pink Floyd is popular is not because they're weirdo psychedelic music, but because they're talking about general, like, human truths that need exploring. And then, so Wish You Were Here, they're like, fuck, we're getting exploited for our desire to talk about human truths. We should talk about the human truths of being exploited in capitalism. And how, like, at the end of it, the only thing you really wish for is yourself to be there with you, to comfort you.
Right.
Like, I'm a deep believer that Wish You Were Here is not a song about how you wish someone else were here, but rather you, like, wish you were here. You know what I mean? Like, you wish yourself was in this situation and you weren't completely corrupted by the world around you. And then you get to The Wall. And The Wall is, like, a product of that exploitation, anger, guilt, and grief that comes with that fame and that exploitation over the course of like a decade.
Right. Well, and
what
also,
does that look like 10 years on?
Yeah. Well, and also it's like, so Dark Side of the Moon is like a general meditations on life.
Yeah.
Like they cover a lot of the broad concepts.
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here is like a meditation on getting fucked by the music industry.
Right.
Artists making songs about how much they hate the music industry are always the best bangers. Like,
like
the
want a single say fuck that.
I was about to say the only Korn song I like is the one where they're like, I don't want to fucking make this song.
I don't want to make this song I'm making for you to make money.
Yeah. And so The Wall
Despite
is like,
of my rage, I am just a rat in a cage. Continue.
Yeah. Well, and so like The Wall is they're like, hey, our society is fucked. It's like, please, like, it help, like, engage with the fact that engage with the rise of fascism, and and all this shit. And so it as an album, it's speaking to some real world issues, and a lot of people, while listening to it, are like trying to think about it like theoretically or like contemplatively, when they're just talking about like the rise of English fascism. They're talking about Thatcherism and like, and
how rebellion against it is also it
feeds into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is if there's a spicy thing in it, it's basically saying that, I think the spiciest maybe what like the thing that people would say is the most bullshit thing about The Wall is how it intercuts between concert footage of people trampling themselves to get into a Pink Floyd show and people falling down and dying in the mud in war.
Right.
And it basically drawing that direct line. And I think what Pink Floyd's trying to say there is like, we too are contributing to like the hordes of like mobilization, right? We mobilize our fans to come to our shows, and then once we get them there, we tell them what our ideas are and we feed their heads full of them, and then they go home and they take them home with them. And like, it's not The Wall, like there's that specific part where he starts like saying fascist shit and he's like, are there any queers? Like fuck gay people.
Get up against the wall. I'm gonna
think,
shoot you.
Exactly. What they're actually saying is like, it doesn't matter what they get up there and say. People are going to support them because of who they are and the fact that they are on a stage. So there is a genuine concern for people to be like, what fucking ideas are really being spread in mass, and you're getting all these people in a room, you're telling them what to believe, and like Pink Floyd is ultimately just a bunch of hippies that hang around and do a bunch of acid and write music, and mobilizing them to go out into the world and like change the socio-political climate and to like fuck with people's minds and like to mobilize people against it feels to them fascistic. It feels to them like no different than fucking Thatcherism.
Right.
So like they're drawing this line where they're like, growing up in Thatcherism made me basically not see anything but the roadmap being Thatcherism.
Right.
And so we just inevitably are always just going to continue doing this fascist loop, even when we try to rebel against it.
Right. Well, and like, I don't know. So I have thoughts on that, but we should describe the movie, or what the movie's about.
Oh yeah, I mean, walk us through it. Tell me the plot.
So the movie follows Pink, who is a pop star, and he is like drugged out, like down the K-hole, basically watching TV in a hotel room, just thinking about everything that happened in his life. So he's thinking about how like, when he was but a child, his father died in World War II.
Yeah.
Well, and also, like last thing before the summary, this is like autobiographical. That's the word.
Yes.
For
Roger Waters.
For Roger Waters. So, anyway, and I guess I think that's part of what like lends the album its like punch.
Right. Because it genuinely feels like he went through this shit.
Yeah. So he's like, he's contemplating, how it destroyed his childhood and his family, having his father die in the war, then, having his traumatized mother transfer that trauma onto him, who is, still traumatized, but his mom is also kind of knowingly or unknowingly taking out her trauma on him.
Yeah.
Then he's like going to school, and he's sees school as just like, where it's like school exists so that we can be funneled into the military or funneled into industry and like consumed by the military, by industry,
right,
by whatever.
And if you try to talk about how that's the reality and that's how things are, they like ridicule you and punish you for being like anti-status quo.
Right.
And that's literally just for having minor questions about the way that things are and being like this like child slavery system that they've found themselves
in. Well,
in.
And you also have to remember, like, this is talking about, post World War II,
right?
British education, which
Woo-hoo-hoo! Terrifying.
No one can be soulless industrialists quite like the British.
It's true.
Well, anyway, I have more takes on this, but like post World War II Britain is fascinating. But
it's true.
So he's growing up. in this world where he recognizes that he's just being funneled into either the military to go die like his father, or like just ground into industrialization and commercialism.
Right.
And then he rebels by becoming a musician.
Right.
And like just having trying to like fill the gap with women. He gets married, but he's just horrible to his wife because of his mommy issues.
Right.
And then he tries to distract himself from that by bringing like random girls from the concerts up to his apartment. But he like, so there's like a bit where he like brings a girl up and then he sits down and like goes back into the K-hole just watching TV, and she's
Right.
trying to be like, hey, you want to like take a bath? You want to do this? Like, hey, I'm talking to you. You want some water? And he's just like thumbing through the channels on the TV.
The implication being that like he's taken probably so many girls back and done literally all of those things so many times by this point that like
he's just rotted his
he's
brain.
just rotted his brain.
Well, there's a lyric in one of the songs where it's like, and the worms dug into his brain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's a double entendre, because like on one hand it's talking about like the insanity of living,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's also talking about the inevitability of dying.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a lot of that on this record where they're talking about like how waiting for the worms is often having the worms already.
Right. Yeah. And so he's just kind of coked out and numb. And then so he can't make it to the show because he like ODs.
Right.
And so then they're like, well, shit, we have to have some show. So they bring on like the literal fascists. Well, but then also he kind of becomes them. It's the movie is kind of like psychedelic and not. It's cohesive, but it's also not.
Well, I think
it's also very symbolistic.
Well, it's like basically the way that I think Pink Floyd would see it is to say that a fascist leader, a fascist figurehead, right, is somebody speaking for somebody else's views.
Right.
So I think in that moment he's saying that like I'm speaking for the views of my record company.
Right.
I'm dead. I died in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
They brought my lifeless body back from the dead. My soul is still trapped in hell. They pushed me onto stage and told me to carry their values and purpose.
Right.
So in that way, it's just like, well, like, are there any queers in the theater? Because they hate gay people.
Yeah.
They hate black people.
Yeah.
They fucking hate all those people. And if it were up to them, those people would be gone and dead, because it's literally just a big old white people parade.
Yeah, it's Thatcherism.
Right. So like they feel like selling out is saying, I'm just going to be a part of this fascist regime that is the status quo.
Right.
And basically they're saying, I've become like the schoolmaster, or I've become like my mother.
Right.
Only I'm doing it to the youth of the world.
Right.
And that makes me a fucking pig, like a bootlicking pig.
Right. And so he loses his mind and then like gets tried for the crime of feeling.
Well, because he gets drunk about it, feels real fucked up about it, and then genuinely just cries. Like, genuinely just finally just breaks down and cries about it.
Gets caught.
And
gets put on trial.
Right, gets caught and put on trial. And by put on trial, it's like a self-trial, where it's like, it's the trial that we all go through every time we show any sort of vulnerability to anybody. And it's like, am I going to be punished for crying, or am I going to be embraced?
Right.
And the reality is it's internal.
Right.
Like whether you're going to be punished or embraced is entirely inside you and not the person you're crying at.
Right. And so during this trial, well, and throughout the whole album, they're talking about how, like, what things have built up his wall.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, it starts with his mother and him trying to like figure out his father's death, and his mom's like, yes, build the wall. Like build up this wall of masculinity to protect yourself.
Right.
You know, and he's like, you know, with his wife, he has to keep building the wall because he's miserable with his wife. He has to keep building the wall because of his substance abuse issues.
Right.
And the entire time he's like, this is what's keeping me safe. Like me being inside this wall with safety, because no one can see my vulnerabilities because I'm hiding behind the wall.
Right.
And so in the trial scene, it's the schoolmaster, his wife, and his mom all come out against him and you know, they're like, well, this is what went wrong, and if only you know, I whipped him harder as a schoolmaster, he would have turned out okay. And his mom's like, no, he doesn't deserve any of this. Like,
he just needs to be protected.
He just needs to be protected. And his wife's like, you son of a bitch.
Right.
Which is fair because he was a
son of a bitch.
Yeah. And so then it ends with them being like, well, I have no choice but to give you the worst punishment we can hand down to you. Tear down the wall.
Right. Well, and because, like, ultimately, I think that's also a social message, right? Because it's like the only thing that you can lose in society is the perception of being socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the only thing. They'll start to look at you as a degenerate, and you can't hide that.
Right. And
that's the only thing.
And so, and this is kind of the big thing where I think where with the movie, it's like, you know, it doesn't really cover what happens after the wall goes down, but it's like, it is him finally having to take accountability for all of the shit he's done. And it's kind of this moment of absolute, like, despair. Ego death. Right. And then it just ends.
Right. Well, and it's saying that okay, there's several references in The Wall to suicide. Mm-hmm. Several. There's even visual depictions of the potential of suicide.
Right.
Like, it's always, like, right there, present.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when all of it kind of, like, congeals, it's like tearing down the wall is not suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's ego suicide.
Right.
Because you realize the ego that the world built for you sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to build your own. And
right.
It's better. And, like, I think The Wall film, if it has any flaw, is that it kind of just, like, pushes you towards the ego death, shoves you into the ego death, and then just kind of leaves.
Yeah.
Whereas the music, like the actual album,
the album has a final song where it helps you realize that, like, the wall never protected him. Like, it's like everyone saw through the wall and saw his vulnerabilities. So it was like only a self, like, the wall was only ever hurting himself. It was never protecting him.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and so and it's just this, like, moment of, it's like, and they're literally just talking to you, trying to, like, help you understand the album, where they're like, isn't it great that, like, the wall went down and that, you know, now he's vulnerable, but he always was vulnerable. Everyone saw his vulnerabilities. He's just not hiding them, and he can finally, like, accept the parts of himself.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and think of all the artists who wore themselves to the bone trying to tear down your wall.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's like, and anyway, so I think, like, the album kind of ends, or not the album, the movie. I don't know. It's like, you know, the album makes it very, very clear that tearing down the wall is like the changing point in Pink's life. It's this point where he realizes his vulnerabilities. Yeah. He's able to, like, take account for his actions and do stuff and, like, move on. Where in the movie,
up on the shit he was carrying.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just don't get that same decisiveness from the movie.
I see. Yeah, I feel like the film was fairly criticized for that aspect as well. Yeah. At its time of release. But now that we kind of have a general ishness of what the fuck the movie is, we're gonna a little
ad break. What's the bit? What's the bit for this week?
Oh, hold on.
Hold on.
Okay, got it.
You got it? All right. A little bit of Foley work here.
Yeah, little Foley. Oh, hi. Hello. What can I do for you? Here's a menu. What are you looking at today?
Well,
what do you think about ordering?
The hashtag iHunt caught my eye. What's what's in
Oh,
that meal?
Oh yeah, the hashtag iHunt. So the hashtag iHunt is like it's like a the gig economy. It's like Tinder but for monster hunting. But it's like it's like an app. But it's like an RPG. You play with your friends, you have fun. You know about fun?
No.
Okay, fun is when you have Ooh, this is hard to explain. Well, there's fun in this one.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah. Unfortunately, there are only 2 things on the menu, but please keep looking. Keep looking at the menu. Yeah.
For dessert, I was looking at this Ambient Dream Studio.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. Ambient Dream Studios is like this really cool poster and design studio on Etsy that has all these like cool art pieces that are all cool and neat. Very psychedelic, very wavy, very it's good for dessert, to be honest with you. It's good after a game of iHunt to pop in and just stare at that for a little while. You know what I mean? Yeah, they go together really well. If you're looking at sides, might I recommend the patreon.com/excrement. That one's my personal favorite. And if you're looking for a drink, Fluids is to tell you the truth, it's of my design. I designed it. But I do think that it's a rather good drink. A bit sour, there's some booze in there, and it hurts. It hurts going down, but I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, so yeah, if you would like to order.
Oh, I'll take all of them.
Oh my God, all of them.
All of them.
Wow.
I'll take your whole stock.
Oh my God. Well, this has been a great ad break. How wholesome has this been?
Yeah.
Damn.
More wholesome than any other ad we've ever had.
Anyway, so back to Despair and Misery. Hello.
Hello, we're back from Despair or we're back to Despair and Misery.
Hello.
So I don't know, it's just like something that people have to think about, in World War II. It was like the Nazis, so in like before World War II broke out, the international community actually was like, "Hey, Germans, what are you doing with those concentration camps? We don't like that." And the Germans said, "Well, but the English are doing it to the Boers in South Africa. Arguably, we're treating the Jews nicer than the British are treating the Boers." And everyone went, "Yeah, okay, fair enough. Have a good day."
Well, yeah,
they got a point, And so it's like, it's in that time period, everyone was pretty authoritarian.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we really like this imagery of the democracies rising up and crushing fascism, where it's like, Winston Churchill sucked.
Yeah, he
like,
sucked. He's
he
like a bad dude,
piece of shit.
Yeah, bad fucking dude.
Oh, and it's like both America and England immediately after World War II, while being allies in the Cold War, immediately made plans to attack each other.
Yeah.
Like, immediately we're like, what if we knock them out?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're already on the warpath.
And like, America was so incredibly close to nuking the shit out of everybody before the Soviets had nukes. Right? And so it's like, and so it's important to remember, and like not to like be too propagandized. And I'm not trying to be like please don't interpret this as me going, well, the fascists weren't quite as bad as everyone else. No, they were the worst.
Right.
I'm trying to communicate that the good guys also were pretty bad. Like,
yeah. Well, I think that's an important thing to the narratives that we're often sold are bullshit.
Right.
And the narrative of England fixed fascism is bullshit.
Right.
Because England was fascistic in nature as it stood.
They ruled large swaths of Africa and Asia with a iron fist.
The difference between them and Germany is that they got away with it.
Yeah. They got away with like the concentration camps were colonial England's favorite thing just in the world. Like,
yeah.
You know,
right.
It's, you know,
I mean, you want to talk colonialism, like,
yeah.
Holy shit.
So, you know, so it's like, you know, and Churchill can talk about how, you know, if we all die, the colonial powers will carry the war on. But it's like, I don't know. It's just, you know, it's going through this period of history, you have to remember that no one was doing great on the scale of democracy.
Right.
You know, and so in like even going through that, there was this narrative of it's like of, you know, in the West of like, hey, we beat the shit out of fascism, like we're so great because of that,
right?
You know, and it's just this like this cultural lie that both America and England or Britain told themselves about, you know, about themselves, and like it was like glorification about themselves, you know, and
well, and the U.S. does this shit. I mean, I grew up with this whole like every grandpa ever was like, yep, we killed Hitler.
Yeah.
It's like Hitler killed himself, okay?
Yeah.
Like,
well, Eisenhower...
They went to fucking war in Russia, okay?
Yeah.
Like, come on now, grandpa. Like, so it's just the narratives that were sold are always self-aggrandized bullshit.
Right. In not being honest to yourself about history is literally the way you get fascism. Like,
yeah, I mean... Well, and so
like a big part of the rise to fascism was at the end of World War I. The reason Germany surrendered was they were out. They were tapped the fuck out. They didn't have.
They were done.
They didn't have the
no
manpower.
Resources.
They didn't have the ammunition.
Yeah, we've read The Art of War. They were outgunned.
Right.
They were out-terrained. They misplanned, and they fucked up.
Well, even more so than that, like they literally fought until they had exhausted all of their supplies.
Well, and it was like the same with the Confederacy, right?
Yeah.
Where like everybody always just like the South will rise. No, they won't. They don't have the fucking resources.
Ground to fucking
dust.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's like, you know, and so when Germany surrendered, there's this big Prussian pride thing, you know, and this like militaristic pride in I mean, like everywhere, but it's like really big for like the Prussian aristocracy generals,
right?
And so they couldn't stomach the fact that they fucked up and they like lost everything,
right?
And so they got this politician to be the architect of the surrender, and then they crucified him, being like, we could have won, but those like limp dick liberals took us out of the war, you know, kind of shit.
Right.
And that narrative, like, was the rise to fascism, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like the whole bit of like, oh, those like, you know, fucking liberals, you know, we could have won World War I. Well, and then we got fucked.
This like weird war hungry attitude is basically, I think so what Roger Waters is saying, right, with like the very beginning of the film is very clearly just like, yeah, all the fucking narratives, yeah, all the fucking we solved the Germany, all the England's great, all the fucking bullshit,
right?
Yeah. My fucking dad fucking died.
Yeah.
He fucking died.
And
for no reason.
And the lies we've told ourselves about that death have led us to fascism.
It was literally blood in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can say that it was for a cause, but the cause was a justification for blood in the fucking gutter.
Right.
And, like, how are you supposed to grow up in a society where you could not ever possibly trust the society that you've grown up in? Because, like, it took your father
Right.
for no reason. It was blood in the gutter. He didn't die killing Nazis. He didn't die killing Hitler. He died in a bombing, trying to protect himself from
Right.
death. Unnecessary death.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Right.
And so, like, people don't play around with the fucking realities of war until they have to, know. But, like, I had to do research a while back on, like, fucked up internet content, and I can't tell you how many times I watched, like, videos of fucking families holding their fucking dead kid after a bombing, and they're just like, why? They're not crying, they're not angry, they're literally just holding the kid and going, why?
Yeah.
Like, why? Why? Like, why?
Right.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
And there is no other justification. There is no other question other than why. Well, and so there's this song by The Knife called One Hit, and the chorus of it is like, the only really the general idea is that the only questions you ever need to ask is like, why and how.
Right.
Why did this happen? How did it happen?
Right.
Who did it?
Yeah, and so and so to like bring this back to the wall is ignoring the like autobiography of the movie and the album. He's also like screaming about it's like we need to like reevaluate the narrative that brought us to like Thatcher,
right?
And it's like
because it's going to continue to bring us to Thatcher,
right? And it's the same with like America. It's like we have to
continue to do Reagan over and over and over.
Yeah, we have to examine the narrative that keeps on bringing us to fascism.
Right. Well, and I mean, I think we're at this period now where we're kind of like reevaluating Trump and all of that, and like Trump is, we were freaking out about it at the time, but I think largely Trump is a Reagan Thatcher figure, just a reemergence of a lot of the same ideas that have been spread for fucking ever by the same fucking stupid sources, and it's the rich that don't want to lose power. And Pink Floyd gets a bunch of money, and they're like, damn, cool. That means if I have money and I'm working for this studio, I'm a figurehead for this billionaire piece of shit who hates gay people and black people and fucking everybody, Jews, like fucking everybody. And like, how am I any different than Fox News at some point? And it is true that like entering any industry is like, it feels criminal. And doing art is the thing you do because you're like, I don't want to do any industry shit because industry is fucking horrible. It's morally against what I like. Like education, hate it because it's industrial, right? Fucking work, terrible because it's industrial bullshit. And so you make art, right? Personal art about that factor, about, like literally the song Money is just that, right? Talking about that problem and how you did some art because you didn't want to deal with that shit. And then you like in not dealing with it, you actually will forever deal with it. Like you enter the industry, if you catch any success whatsoever in the industry, you become a figurehead for the worst imaginable people and their terrible fucking ideas. And like running away from that means literally doing what your audience doesn't want you to do, because like at the end of the day, we still live in a world where the radio station comes on and they're like, hey, welcome back to the station. We're gonna and here comes Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb. Like, it's because that is the average fan of that tune, right? That's the reason that it's like that is because it like works, because people like it like that. And I don't like it like that. You don't like it like that. But that's because we understand and appreciate the artistry of what goes into it. But a lot of people genuinely don't. And I think that is almost the message, right? Is not to say that the audience doesn't get it, but to say that putting this in front of that many people, that many swabs of people, taking it out of context, and then like bastardizing it, is going to lead to situations where people read messages into this art that aren't even remotely close to what the artist could have ever been trying to intend, and they said it plainly.
Right.
You know, how could it have been misinterpreted?
Right.
It said so plainly.
Yeah. You know, and it's just...
It's depressing, I think, more because, like, well, the fucked up thing about The Wall, right, is that it was made a very fucking long time ago about issues that we're currently dealing with still.
Right.
And so when I was 11 years old, I watched this for the first time. Horribly traumatizing. But when I was 11, I watched this for the first time. And I remember very vividly seeing, like, the protests and the people, like, burning shit and breaking shit. And, well, specifically the We Don't Need No Education, like, the kids rebel and they start fighting back, and then that turns into violent crime against each other, and then that turns into burning information and destroying like factions.
Right.
And it does exactly what happens when any movement turns anywhere, anything happens. It just like immediately goes to violence, but then the violence turns into, you know, violence against each other. And then that turns into fascist factions within even liberal in-groups.
Right.
And then it turns into a big fucking cop factory. And then everybody's bootlicking once again.
Right.
And so I think it's just this like despaired idea of, well, it's kind of like that moment in the Holy Mountain with the bread. Where he's like, if you want to do miracles like Christ, see what will happen when you do. And he just like gives the kids bread, and then they fucking divide it up, make factions, turn to fascism, and use it to kill each other.
Right.
And it's just like, you give anybody, any group of people anything, it's just like, you know, don't throw them a bone, okay? Like,
Right.
They didn't ask for your fucking help. You know, so like Pink Floyd is, I feel like they're dealing with the fact that they're on this world stage now. And they're expected to like say something, but here I am 11, and they're depicting the world as this place where violent protests happen, and like, you know, cruelty and misogyny, horrible sexism, like, you know, violence. I mean, just violence, drug abuse, all this stuff, and also justifying it with context. It's saying like, here's why this, here's why this, here's why drug abuse, here's why music, here's why rejection, here's why social isolation, here's why all this, here's why mom bad, here's why dad bad, here's why, you know what I mean? And so it just like walks you through all these reasons. And the fucked up thing about it is, I was 11 when I was seeing this for the first time, but now seeing it again at 29, I'm like, this is literally what happened in my life. Like, this is literally what came to pass. And that's so fucked up.
Right.
That like the protests and shit, right? Justifiable. But then I remember, you know, when the protests were going on in Portland and Robert Evans was out there, I was watching like every fucking night, and I remember being like, yes, justified, fight the cops. And it was getting, you know, more and more and more violent, but they were getting smarter and smarter and smarter about protecting themselves from the cops, getting the protests, you know, out there and stopping the cops from attacking them. Like, they were getting really, really good at it. And then outside agitators came in that were mostly white people who came to just fuck shit up, came in, and it got way out of hand. Then it started to turn into infighting, and then people that were justifiably really into the cause stopped coming because they were scared, and then it turned into shit.
Right.
And that's kind of what happens even when somebody's like justified, because like human beings fight really stupid, and nobody really understands the consequences of what they're doing.
Right.
And so I think largely the movie is like about how you can't prevent the consequences of your own actions in an inevitable long run.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, I think that's all the takes we got.
You think
got
so?
For the wall. Well, I think it's. I don't know.
We've been talking about it for a hot minute.
Yeah. Well, also we've like lost a lot of not footage, but I guess audio.
Yeah. So we've been talking for a hot minute longer than it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening.
Well, we didn't even gold.
Oh, gold.
Yeah, gold.
Gold.
I mean, it wasn't appreciated as well as it maybe should have been back in the day, but definitely deserves that appreciation now.
I like the album better, but the movie's also very good.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. I like the fact that it's diverse. Like, it's different experiences. They're kind of almost companion pieces.
Right.
And the album almost, I feel like, lives in a different sort of place than maybe the film. But anyway, thank you for coming to our podcast. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Sorry, we are getting this out so incredibly late.
Yeah, but next week we'll be back on track
Yeah.
with some other bullshit. Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, patreon.com/excrement, my shitheads. I don't
Go.
What is the what? I don't know if I like that. My little shits.
We could do a Slipknot thing, just demean our audience.
Yeah, little shits.
Shout out to Machine Age Productions and the RPG #iHunt. And also
Ambient
shout
Dream
out to Ambient
Studio.
Dream Studio. Check them both out. We'll see you next week.
Bye.